Oh, here we are. Upside down. Good morning. Oh, gosh, I look awful. Well, here I am on a Thursday morning, and this here light is just making it worse. Ow. That's better. No, that's worse because it makes a big old glare. Let's see. That's better. No, ain't happening. Well, when I'm uh up to it, I'll put that lamp in a better place. Oh, hi, Parmenides and Jason. Welcome in. I'm a little late getting started this morning. I'm slow. We've had chilly mornings and hot afternoons again, just like July. Oh, my hair's getting long. Oh, well. Ah, jeez. So much is happening and so much is not happening. My house is full of clutter, worse than ever. But I have to spread out the boxes and go through what's in them so I can, let's see, sell, donate, and throw out things. And actually figure out where the things that I want are located. I was really close to being finished 5 years ago when some people thought it would be helpful to rearrange everything I own while I was out with a broken leg. They even unpacked things that I packed up, things that were ready to go and not be here anymore, and then pack up the things I had out because I used them, and not all in one box either. For example, I don't put all the screwdrivers in one box, all the pens and pencils in another box, and so forth. I put things together in boxes of things I use. Here's the things I use in the morning. Here's the things I'm cleaning and repairing, and so forth. All totally mixed up, and I'm still searching for things that disappeared. Like my photographs of Phil and his friends. Don't know where they put them. They don't know where they put them. I had all my photos in one box. And the box, actually, I had spilled coffee on it, but they insisted the cat peed on the box. So they dumped everything out and threw out the box and didn't even have the decency to put all my photos in one box. The ones I have found were in 6 different boxes. And then I had a batch of postcards that I was no longer going to keep, and then a box of postcards and greeting cards and such that I was keeping. Now, they didn't just put them all together in one box, they scattered them among a dozen boxes. God. Okay, enough ranting. So that's why my house is a worse disaster than before. Because I have to go through every single box. I'm still searching for the screws that hold the seat on my great granny's rocking chair that I'm sitting on. They were in my desk drawer, which they dumped out and didn't, by accident, they say, and didn't have the decency to just put everything back in my drawer. I don't know where they put the things that were in it, but they filled it with a bunch of crap, including some dried out felt pens that I had put together in a box of things to go out in the trash. They unpacked that box too. They unpacked my trash. I almost said the F word. I don't run to the out to the trash can or even to the kitchen and the wastebasket every time I find one piece of trash. I gather all the pieces of trash that I come across in a day and take the box out to the trash barrel with all the things in it. Jesus. Think I'm going to run back and forth to the trash barrel 16 times a day? No. When you're sorting tons of stuff, you don't waste your time doing that. Anyway, so I'm really frustrated that my house is full of stuff and it's like an obstacle course to get to the bathroom. I'm really bent out of shape about that because it's getting worse, not better. I've got to find those photos. There's people who want those photos. On. Jesus Christ. I'm going to cuss now. Verizon cut me off, and I'm not sure where they cut me off. So, anyway, here it is Thursday morning. Yesterday morning, I found 2 lamps on my doorstep. Friend must have picked them up at a yard sale and dropped them here. I'll have to find the right places to put them and light my living room. But I don't like a lot of bright light, and I don't like the electric bills, so what I wanted was a swag lamp hanging from the ceiling. The bulb burned out after only 1 year. And first off, I can't get up on a ladder to change it. Second, it's one of those weird square light bulbs that plug in, and they cost a bloody fortune. So I'm not going to spend $35 for a light bulb that burns out after 1 year. Now I know why they gave me the ceiling fan for free. At least the fan works. Ah, yeah, what a day. So our weather is cold in the morning, hot in the afternoon. I think code enforcement has given up, surrendered. They haven't sent any more notices. They actually wanted to cut down my hollyhocks and sweep a shadow off of my roof. They thought the hollyhocks were weeds. They thought the shadow on the roof was pine needles. Brilliant people. Anyway, by the time they re-inspected, I had cut down the flower spikes on the hollyhocks because those things go straight up, no branches, and then when they're through flowering, they dry out. I'm really upset that they cited me and threatened a $200 fine for 3 hollyhocks and a shadow on my roof. Life in Southern California. Meanwhile, if you're here without documents, they don't bother you. we're California's a sanctuary state, but San Bernardino County does what they can to keep law and order. I've noticed recently that because I have to use the laundromat, no washing machine, it bit the dust. The laundromat is super busy every day, all day. It's open 7 days a week and is full of people who speak only Spanish. Now, we're not going to, as citizens, we're not going to um, report them or anything like that, but it is an inconvenience. I did manage to get some laundry done. Twice now I've found one machine available. One. But by the time you wash and dry a load, and it's a large load, equivalent to 2 loads at home, but it costs about $10 or to wash and dry them. Now, when I meet an individual who sneaked in to our country, I can sympathize. But we have millions, and I want to see actual criminals gone. But it's turning into a really awful situation, especially with protests. There was at least one protest in this county at an ICE facility. The sheriffs made a report about. They send emails all the time. Here we go. This is from September 24. Sheriff responds to recent incident at an ICE facility. I'm afraid if I do a share screen, I'll lose the connection again because Verizon hates me and I hate them. Okay. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is taking proactive steps to ensure the safety and security of all residents, personnel, and detainees in and around the Adelanto Processing Center. They aren't even holding them there. And it's actually a private facility that contracts with ICE. Okay, now the sheriff's department is not assigned to immigration enforcement, and they are not assigned to that processing center. However, the facility is in the city of Adelanto, which contracts with the sheriff's department to provide law enforcement services. They've increased patrols in the area surrounding the ICE processing center, monitoring potential threats in coordination with federal partners. These measures are being taken out of an abundance of caution, and there is currently no direct threat to the public or the facility. Okay, so they're just monitoring. Well, hi, Don B. Welcome in. Let's pray to the gods of Verizon that I get to stay on this morning. I got on late. I blame the cats, but it isn't really their fault. I was watching a video and lost track of the time. It was Representative Ilhan Omar. There's talk of denaturalizing her. Well, hell, hi, Freeman. Welcome in. Good to see you. It's been a while. Well, anyway, Ilhan Omar, the Somali immigrant, there's all kinds of talk about denaturalizing and deporting her. She came as a child as a refugee because her entire they were a ruling family in Somalia. Oh, Parmenides would love to live in the desert. Morongo Valley was affordable a few years back. Sorry, Verizon's glitchy, but Omar was a member of a ruling family in Somalia. That's why they had to flee. Just in case Verizon made you miss that. So I doubt it would be safe to send her back to Somalia. Let's see how that plays out if it ever does. And then there's clips. For example, they play a really short clip of Charlie Kirk saying, I don't like the word sympathy. No, I got it backwards. He says, I don't like the word empathy. And that's all the legacy media show you. But he goes on to say that he prefers the word sympathy. Now, we can blame colonialism for the problems in Africa. England, France, and even Germany had colonies all over Africa, mostly the northern countries. England, I think, officially did not rule Egypt, but they had a lot of power there. Now, South Africa was a Dutch colony, and the people who are being oppressed now are the Dutch, the Boers. Well, the thing is, England fought a big old war around 1800, I think. I'm not sure when the Boer War happened, but the British won and took South Africa from the Dutch. And yet, most of the violence today is against the Dutch, not the English. The Congo, which is now a republic, I believe it was is it French or German? I think it was a French colony, might have been German. Oh, thanks, Parmenides. 1800 to 1900, about that, around. I think the English and the Dutch fought over South Africa for a long, long time. Well, when the government officials and activists are shown on the legacy media and even in YouTube clips, they're talking about killing the Boers. Those are the Dutch. And people are up in arms because some white people from South Africa were given asylum here in the US. Yeah, the Zulu nation was against the English and the Dutch. I did not see that movie, Shaka Zulu, but it is set in, wartime. But yeah. Oh, hi, Angus. Welcome in. Modern colonialism is modern colonialism is disguised. What they do is issue a loan to the government of a small country, and then they have them under their thumb. They can pressure the governments of small countries to do what the Europeans want. And the US has done that to some too. So Angus says the subject of the Zulu movie is the Battle of Isandlwana? Isandlwana. Oi, that's a tongue twister. Wow. Well, Phil would be horrified by the state of the world today and the United States. Oh, Parmenides says there is a very good movie about colonialism, The Passenger, 1975, by Michelangelo Antonioni. Italian, eh? And Angus says in the Zulu movie that battle is where Chaka Zulu made a name for himself. We live in a world that isn't quite real, at least in our minds. Our world is made by the media. They pick and choose highly edited clips of prominent people talking. They tell you about a mostly peaceful protest while behind them a whole block of buildings is on fire and a couple cars are burning too. Mostly fiery, but mostly peaceful. And then the stores get looted. How many riots were there after Charlie Kirk was killed? 0. People prayed. They gathered to pray. Of course, if you're a real radical, you really hate that. How dare you pray? We hate that guy, so you shouldn't pray for him. And frankly, now that I know a little more about Kirk, I'm not thrilled with his philosophy. But that does not justify what happened to him. When we were kids, we were taught this little rhyme: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, Phil was a liberal Democrat, but I don't think he would be a Democrat today. because that party seems to be using some really good ideas to implement really bad ideas. For example, the House of Representatives, led by Republicans, wants to pass a resolution to just keep the spending at its current level while they work out the spending bills before them. But in the Senate, uh, sorry, this thing on my lip, this tumor it messes me up. Well, anyway, that Chuck Schumer wants a little over $1 trillion more than what we're spending, what our government is spending now, for various programs that uh, benefit Democrat voters, basically. More money to provide welfare to immigrants who came here without any documents. Um, more spending on the Green New scam. All kinds of stuff. Yes, Parmenides, the illusion of choice. Now, we don't call our colonies colonies, but they are. Oh, and a lot of people are up in arms about the, what do they call it? I think it's HB1 visa. So uh, Trump wants to increase the fee that they pay the government from $5,000 to boom, $100,000 because they've been abusing the system, depriving Americans of jobs by hiring people from foreign countries under this visa program and paying those employees a lot less than an American would get for the same job. They claim that they can't find an American with the qualifications. But hey, this guy from India will do. And India's up in arms about that. It's a sort of safety valve for India for their people to come here and earn American dollars to send home and boost the economy of India. Let's see. Pawned his typewriter for $10 to buy 2 quarts of whiskey. I hope you're joking. Oh yeah, they hire a lot of Chinese too, and the FBI is looking into Chinese college students and Chinese workers because that's an easy way for China to spy on us. Angus says most of the tech jobs that Indians do will be AI automated. And by the way, that's India Indians, not Native Americans. Oh, Don B was referencing a movie from the 1945, The Lost Weekend, starring Ray Milland. Well, I imagine, in the 70s, Phil was for amnesty for illegal immigrants, let them stay. But we had a trickle. The immigration was able to vet each one, make sure they're not letting in criminals. But with 10 million or more coming in 4 short years, we can't handle that. And what ICE is saying is go back and apply from your home country to come in legally. And a lot of immigrants did that, but now they're waiting in line behind people who are already here. There's only so many bureaucrats sitting at the desk and doing these background checks. And there's only so many judges to say yes or no. So Trump increased the number of judges and increased the number of people doing paperwork, and that makes him an awful person. All kinds of talks about fascism and oh, crud. Anyway, there's some words I don't want to say. I want to keep my channel. Wow. And it's so horrible that they're stopping people from coming in without, you're supposed to come to a port of entry, not just sneak through. Well, they're not allowing people to sneak through anymore, especially the ones who sneak through while carrying guns and all kinds of military equipment. Freeman says that movie that Don referenced, The Lost Weekend, is an autobiography of William Faulkner and Ernest Hemingway. I think that's a joke. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, people have migrated through the ages, but guess what? Even then, they were stopped at the border and questioned. For example, when the Israeli migrants from Egypt asked to go through certain lands, countries, they asked for safe passage. Some of those nations said, nope, you can't come through our country. And that was what, about 3,000 years ago? Yeah, Freeman, I thought it was a joke. I have to let a cat in, I think. Someone's meowing. Tora never meows. She squeaks. Oh, it's Smoky Sue. Okay, hang on. Come on in. I'll leave the door open so I don't have to get up again. Tora has not come around to say hi to her adoring fans. I wonder if you can see her. She's her heating pad, which used to be my heating pad. There she is. Yes. By the way, I ordered another heating pad from Amazon so I can have one to sit on. It's chilly in the morning. Okay, that's enough. Cora's such a sweetie. Smoky Sue, you know I'm not into having you rub me and lick me and chew on me. Well, okay. Cat treats. Okay, you really want me to go over Phil's experiences in the 70s again? Hi, Tutu. Here, Tora. Now you all got your treats. Let's see if I can put Tutu on camera. He's a big boy. Yes, he is. Cats. Oh, F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've been meaning for years now to read Tender is the Night, F. Scott's novel about his wife who apparently was mentally ill. Well, let's see. 73, my son was born. We were living in a upstairs apartment, what in America we call the second floor. In England, you would call it the first floor. And there were only 2 stories in that building, the ground floor and the first floor. So nobody was walking around above our heads. And our apartment was above the carport, so Phil could play his stereo with the bass box that boomed. He could play, classical music. He could play Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, all kinds of stuff. But he was still anxious because of what happened to him in 71. November 17th, 1971, his house was raided. Fortunately, nobody was home when it happened. 1973 was okay. He was calming down. He fled to Canada in 71, I think in December, to Vancouver, British Columbia. You know, the island. Came back to Fullerton in 72, I think in March. I hadn't met him yet. I met him in July. 1 year later, I had a baby. Well, so I'm like young mother, couldn't count on my family for help. I was not about to do what Mom recommended because Mom was insane. Yes, Jason, the answer is yes, but I'm not reading your comment. It's off topic. So, 1974, I think in February, I wrote it down in one of my books. Uh, oh, why do I think he was popular in France? His liberal philosophy was very much like French politics, but more to the point. Phil's novels tended towards surrealism, which is basically a way of writing that developed mostly in France. Also in the visual arts, and somewhat in Italy, like Ionesco. I don't like his plays, but it was the surrealism, I think, that really caught on in France. Smokey, quit! I'll, I'll pound you. That's what Lucy used to say in the Peanuts cartoons. I'll pound you. I don't know about swinging. The big schism about swinging. Oh, you mean like swapping partners? I don't know. Tora, now she wants treats and she's in the light. See? Say hi to your adoring fans. There's nothing up there but a ceiling fan. It's always been there and you know that. There's Smokey in the background, sulking because I won't let her beat up Tora. Tora doesn't want to play. Go play with Tutu. He'll play with you. More treats. Yes, you both get some, even though Smokey's bad, she gets treats. Here, Tora. Oh, there's Tutu. Okay. Hang on. They hear the package rattling and they come running. And Tutu was outside and he heard it. What caused the divorce? Well, when Phil hired a moving van and moved out, taking all the furniture and books and everything, I figured we were finished. But that was later. 75 or 6. I forget exactly which. Good point, Don B. The cause of divorce is marriage. He fell in love with some blonde and went and rented an apartment for her, and she rejected him. It was a fantasy that he acted on. Let's see. Let's go back to 1974. I think he left in 75, could have been 76. That was back in the dark ages. I don't cling to those things. I just don't remember. I choose not to. Ah. Okay, at least I don't have cat hair in my mouth, knock on wood. That's what you do. It's like throwing salt over your right shoulder. If you spill the salt, don't toss it over your left shoulder. Toss it over your right shoulder to cancel the bad luck. Don B, I was going to do a video about the crazy English language. He points out every letter C in Pacific Ocean is pronounced differently. Good point. Oh, I think, okay, Freeman thinks it's 76 when Phil dedicated a book to Joanne or Marianne. Those were people he had known up north before I met him. Don V wanted to learn Spanish, Italian, and Japanese. Well, I learned some Spanish, but Italian confuses me because it sounds like Spanish, but it isn't. And words that sound the same have different meanings in Spanish and Italian. I can count to 10 in Japanese because my son would count when he was doing push-ups. He was learning martial arts. Let's see. Ich, ni, san, chi, go, roku, siki, no, sichi, hachi, ku, ju. Now, Phil did not like Stanislav Lem. He thought he was being cheated, and they wanted him to fly to Poland on Aeroflot, the Russian airline, and he was afraid that they would never let him leave. You know, he did not like the Soviet Union. He feared them. Anyway, back to the visions. Phil had an abscessed molar. It was not a wisdom tooth. It was near the front of his mouth. Wisdom teeth come in near the back. Let's see. So his was like here, and a wisdom tooth would have been there. They ended up pulling 2 molars. He was, put under general anesthesia. And I didn't drive just yet. Well, I could drive, come to think of it, but 74? Pretty sure I got my driver's license in 73. Well, anyway, not sure. But we were using taxis to get to and from the oral surgeon who pulled the molars. I'm sure it was a molar. I saw his face up close. I also saw the doctor's report. He pulled 2 molars. I'm not being super accurate with my finger. I'm exaggerating so you can see the difference. Well, he came home still we came home by taxi. He was still groggy from the anesthesia. And because we didn't want to do 2 taxi rides, one to the pharmacy and one to the apartment, we just went home and had the pharmacy deliver his pain pills. And the lady who delivered the pills was a beautiful blonde lady. And she had this fish symbol on a gold chain around her neck. The Christian fish symbol. Now I had the checkbook ready. I'd filled out everything but the amount. But before I could get to the door to answer it, Phil came running out of the bedroom and opened the door to get his pain pills. And here's this cute blonde lady. And he realized, oh, I'm looking down her blouse. I shouldn't do that. So he asked her about the necklace as an excuse for looking down her blouse. And she explained it's a Christian fish symbol. Well, Phil already knew that. We had this little bumper sticker, and instead of putting it on the car, he placed it on a living room window. And what really happened was not that the lady's fish symbol necklace zapped him with a pink light. Remember, he was writing fiction. What really happened was Bill turned to go into the bathroom and get a glass of water and swallow his pills. The sun glinted off this shiny, silvery fish symbol sticker and briefly blinded him. So then, when he walked into the dark hallway, not completely dark, but dark enough, he was seeing phosphine activity. The eyes, in recovering from being blinded by that bright light, were showing him pink, because that's what eyes do. And he was seeing the form of the fish symbol sticker that we had on our window. And then he took the pain pills. They were Percodan, one of the opium substitutes. Every time the FDA has a problem with an opium substitute, the pharmaceuticals, the companies who are having that one banned, releases another opium substitute that's supposed to be better and less harmful. Now it's what, Vicodin, or no, it isn't even Vicodin. They've got something else. They're all pretty much opium. They're forms of codeine, which is derived from opium. Let's see. Parmenides wants to know, how did Lem try to rip Phil off? Well, the contract called for $750. And in 1972, that was not a lot of money, but reasonable. Our rent was $200. I think it went up to $250, but that would still pay 3 months' rent. Not too bad, not too shabby. And then after Poland actually the Polish publisher actually published the book, then Lem said, oops, we can't pay you. We can't get any hard currency, so we'll have to pay you in Polish zlotys. Well, there was no exchange. Like today, if I get a payment from Germany, it'll go through an exchange and turn it into US dollars. Or if I pay someone in Germany with US dollars, they can convert it to the German mark. But since Poland was part of the Soviet Union, they were very limited in, and if they sent us a check for so many zlotys, we couldn't cash it. It was not allowed in the US because they were, evil communists. Well, anyway, so yeah, Phil was ripped off. He never got the money. In the end, he told them to just donate it to the Warsaw Volunteer Fire Department, which is run by Catholic monks. Lem actually wanted Phil to travel to Poland when it was in the Soviet Union. Well, Phil had all kinds of phobias, fears. He feared flying, he feared traveling, he feared being in a foreign country, he even feared opening the door and leaving the house. So there was that, plus Soviet Union. Do I really want to go there? This was after President Nixon opened up trade with China, but we didn't trade with Russia. It was the Soviet Union. Yeah, I'm sure they would have used him in their propaganda. But Phil feared they might never let him leave. After all, he didn't have money for an airline flight to come home, and they might just not provide it for him. And back to 74. Phil started seeing, long after the phosphine activity in his eyes would have ended, he was lying in bed on pain pills, staring at the white doors of our closet, the clothes closet, and seeing this square that Phil defined as the golden rectangle. Not really a square, a rectangle. The shape of the sticker on our living room window. And it probably was a rectangle. It's a concept from Greek art. There's math involved and geometry. And I used to know it, but today I would have to look it up. It's a certain proportion. Well, anyway, he was seeing all kinds of writing and even hearing the apartment next door that was full of electronic equipment. And maybe the landlord was spying on his wife to see if she was cheating on him. Or maybe somebody was spying on us. Apparently, our phone was tapped. Not sure whether it was on purpose or just because of the way they hooked up an illegal phone, without paying the phone company. There was a working phone in that apartment, and there were times when our phone in our apartment just did not work. So we complained, and when the phone company came out to repair our phone, they found the illegal connection and took it down, and then our telephone worked. Yeah, the phone call, that was before I met Phil. I think it was in 69 when John Lennon and Yoko Ono had their recording of Give Peace a Chance, and they had quite a few guests in their hotel room where they were um, holding a bed in. The protesters, at least in California, the Vietnam War protesters had sit ins. They were wealthy, so they had a bed in a hotel in Canada. I think it was Montreal, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But they were just not getting out of bed. I hope they got up to go to the bathroom. Whew. But they could have people bring them food and so forth. Anyway, among the people there to sing Give Peace a Chance was Timothy Leary, a wanted man later. At that time, he was not wanted, but the FBI had him under surveillance as a radical. Well, somehow the subject of Philip K. Dick came up, and uh, both John Lennon and Timothy Leary said they were big fans. So Paul Williams, the journalist who was there, said, "Oh, he's a friend of mine. I have his phone number. You want to call him?" And they did. And I'm sure that phone call from John Lennon's hotel room was heard by government agencies, probably the FBI, maybe the CIA. Um, so that's what got Phil on the radar of federal authorities. Come on, load up, please. Come on. Where's the thingy? Okay, I'm live again. Shouldn't talk about such things. The government doesn't like that. Okay. So, NSA, yeah, no such agency. Maybe all of them were after him. He might have been on Nixon's enemies list, but he would have been low on the list. Leary was on the enemies list for sure, and so was John Lennon. They were spying on John Lennon for sure, and Timothy Leary. And then Here's this call to some poverty-stricken science fiction writer in San Rafael, California. I think his community was called Santa Venetia, something like that. No, Leary became a wanted fugitive later in 1970 after he was put into a minimum security prison in California. Leary escaped, and he definitely had help. Somebody helped him climb the fence, and somebody provided him with clothing to replace the prison uniform. Anyway, Leary ended up touring Europe as some kind of rock star. Phil ended up with nothing. Phil and I lived in Fullerton, down in Orange County, California. There are people who hold tours where they look at the 4 different places where we lived. Well, number 4, I was in the process of moving in when Phil suddenly died. We were getting back together, but he had a stroke and never came out of the hospital alive. It's officially March 2nd of 1982. Well, anyway, 3C came in. 3C's timid. Tutu's sister. But Phil was hearing that sounded like overhearing someone else's conversations. Yes, I still write Parmenides much slower than I used to be. In the early 2000s, I wrote like a demon. I mean, really fast. Makes me think of that Twilight Zone episode, the printers. Is it the printer's apprentice? The Devil's Apprentice. It's about the old linotype machines where you set up the print for a book or a newspaper. They used to call the linotype the Devil's Apprentice. Knock it off, Tora. I gave you treats twice already and you don't deserve them. She just stares at me. Oh, you won't stare at the camera, huh? Well, that's what you have to do if you want treats. You have to say hi to your adoring fans. She keeps pawing me, on my leg. And eventually, even though it's a soft touch, it starts hurting. Well, anyway, Phil wrote thousands of pages of what he called exegesis. He sent public letters to science fiction publications. He was interviewed by Paul Williams at our Fullerton apartment, and that resulted in a big story in Rolling Stone. which is supposed to be about rock and roll music, but they publish all sorts of things. I think they're still in business. No, I've never owned an Olivetti typewriter. I've heard about them. Phil had an Olympus upright manual typewriter. He would not even use an electric typewriter. He said that he'd get too wordy if it were easier to type. The manual typewriter slowed him down, so he would have to think about what he wrote. And he never had a computer either. Hi, at Sequentia. They don't give you notifications at Sequentia? Yeah, YouTube has been shadow banning a lot of channels. They've let people back on who got canceled during COVID and elections and stuff. But I'm not getting notifications about the things that I subscribe to. I just have to keep searching YouTube and see if they're on. So mostly I listen to the replays. Oh, Freeman. Twilight Zone in Praise of Pip. Is that the one where... Oh, come on. What's his name? Let me see if Google will tell me. I'm getting the Hourglass of Doom. Yeah. Father is at a bar getting drunk, and Pip is dying and telepathically. Yeah, Oscar Madison, but Jack Klugman was the author's name. That's what I was searching on Google. Jack Klugman. Yeah. Come on. Where is it? Oh, just as I give up, it brings me back. Yeah. Well, when it does that, my modem says you're connected. My computer says you're connected, but YouTube says no, you aren't. Anyway, around 1970 or thereabouts, Dad took me and my brother and someone else to see The Odd Couple in the theater, the one with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. And Mom was furious. She thought it was about gay men. And she well, she had a thing because my oldest brother was gay. She was really violently against homosexuality. Oh, I've been on for almost an hour and 20. Yeah, Twilight Zone was such a great show. And of course, the networks ruined it. the new Twilight Zone and stuff like that. I forget the title of the show, but they had a new show that was not the Twilight Zone with Rod Serling, and that didn't work out because the bureaucrats in the boardrooms would overrule the creative people who could write really good scripts. I got to mention that I met Harry Harrison. Uh, Phil just couldn't go to the Nebula Awards. He was nominated, but he knew he couldn't win because his novel was disqualified. It had been previously published as a serial in a magazine, in 2 or 3 parts. So he had me go for him. And Paul Williams was there, and he said, "Let's go meet Harry Harrison, the guy who wrote Make Room, which became the movie Soylent Green." I think he won, if I remember correctly. Either that or the guy who wrote 2001. Famous guy whose name I forgot. Well, anyway, so we went up the stairs. The building was sort of a hotel, but I don't think it had elevators. Small venue. Anyway, Harry Harrison bursts out through the door, sees us, and goes, "Oh, I'm in a hurry. I have to, blah, blah, blah." And I just turned sideways, waved my arm, and said, "Go ahead." Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke. Anyway, yeah, Arthur C. Clarke won, but Harry Harrison should have won. Maybe it's 2 different awards. I don't know. Anyway, uh, so I kind of met Harry Harrison. I didn't know who these people were anyway. I knew about the movie because Phil took me to see Soylent Green. But yeah, Robert Heinlein wanted to meet Phil, and I didn't know really. I had read one of his books in high school. It was Double Star. Anyway, I really didn't know who he was, but he gave an acceptance speech in for Arthur C. Clarke, who could not leave Sri Lanka. He would lose his um, application for permanent residence in Sri Lanka if he left the island. So, on behalf of Clarke, Robert Heinlein accepted, and that's the only reason I knew what he looked like. So, I introduced myself, and he said he was a big fan and he had this box of books that he wanted Phil to sign for him. So, of course, he didn't have the box of books on him at the time, but he went and got them and gave us his address to mail them to him. Oh, so Phil became a pen pal of Robert Heinlein. He had thought that Heinlein was a radical right winger, but he was actually a libertarian. And he liked Phil's work and so forth. He even lent actually his wife, Virginia, who went by Ginny, lent us money to pay the IRS when our income taxes were more than we could pay. Anyway, it was a crazy, wild time. I really was not a science fiction fan. Most of what I read was nonfiction, although I did enjoy Edgar Allan Poe, his poetry and stories, and Shakespeare, of course, especially Hamlet. I read it 3 times, Hamlet, and even memorized not the soliloquy you think of, but the other one. Shoot. Come on, brain. I'm trying to think. I think it's, oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Whatever. And I've got to go. It's an hour and 25 now. Oh, 24. Close enough. I'm hungry. The cats are on the rampage, and so forth. So, guys, thank you all for chatting with me. I'm typing and talking. And have a great day. Well, you know, um, Freeman, it's okay to miss things. I often talk about the same things in another stream. But, I have a tiny audience, fewer than 1,000. And as the audience grows, these replays will be up. At Sequendia, I don't know about coffee. I'm trying to get a sip after it's empty and going, oh, it's empty. But today it is not empty, it's just cold. Here we go. See you next time. Bye.